So really learning from clients, not just
Yeah.
trying to, shove something down their throat.
Welcome to the SEA podcast. Welcome, Peter Fader, a renowned professor at the Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania, a thought leader in really customer lifetime value, making the qualitative, quantitative. Professor Fader, welcome.
Thanks, Peter. Good to talk to you. I
Yeah,
appreciate all
you
those
as
kind
well.
words. Let's dive in.
Yeah, exactly. So again, we could talk about a million things with you, but today we want to talk about your entrepreneurial journey. And you've started a few businesses, you're running a few businesses now, but going back in time, you've been at Wharton a long time. You've been at Wharton since 1987. Talk to us about your entrepreneurial journey.
Sure. Actually, there are several businesses for those as well. None of my own choosing. Just mess around with data, apply methods to new problems, and somebody's going to say, we can commercialize that. So actually, Zodiac is probably really the third one of substantial of realness. It wasn't by choice. It was just I'm just working on fun problems, and other people said there's something here more than just academic articles, and I'm saying, show me the way. I'm happy to go
Yeah.
along for the ride. Zodiac isn't really that much different. Again, of building out all these models of customer retention and repeat purchase and lifetime value. And it was kind of a perfect storm of circumstances. One is that the models was all the research I was doing, and I'd be out there pushing it. Hey, people, look at these papers, use them. It's going to help you. They'd ignore me. So we'd try to make the models available. We'd kind of put out R code and spreadsheets and technical notes and videos, and they still ignore me. So it was, you can lead a horse to water, and at some point you have to jam its head in it.
Yeah.
So it's like, just all right, fine. The only way we're going to be able to use these models is if we kind of do it ourselves. So that was one part of it. Two were the people who were surrounding me. In
Mhm.
particular, my co-founder Dan McCarthy
Mhm.
was my PhD student at the time, went on to found all these other businesses with me. And he just did such a good job, again, of elevating the models, of making them more accessible, of just being kind of just clear and level-headed about it. And then he brought in his PhD kind of office mate, Justin Bleich, and then we brought in an undergrad who was messing around with this stuff. So it was just a great group of people. So between
Mhm.
that and just all these natural use cases, it's like, why not?
Yeah.
And that went super well. And then, of course, Nike swooshed in 2018 and bought that thing.
Yeah.
And that was, again, a nice outcome and a nice education. And then we immediately turned around and started Theta, that we continue to run today.
Yeah, oh, that's great. And I love hearing, you're a thought leader, right? You're renowned. You're at an incredible business school. You are asked to speak all around the world. But when you tell the commercial world, hey, there's an idea, there's something here, they're not paying attention. So, how did you finally get traction? Was it getting the right team? Was it showing them that this could lead to dollars and cents?
It was, well, them showing me, saying
Okay,
there's really
yeah.
something here. And I think and a big breakthrough as we're kind of just messing around with these ideas was going to first round capital.
Okay.
And so,
A local Philadelphia firm, right? Yeah.
exactly. And of course, they're the principal there, Josh Koppelman, is one of my former students. So when he brought these ideas to his attention, he said, we could do something with this. And they did. Not only did they lead the funding round, brought in some other nice VCs as well, Felice's Ventures and others. But it was a really good education for me. Again, I'm not born to do this stuff, but everything from the kind of people that we need to hire to even the name of it. Originally it was called CLV Metrics.
Boring.
Ugh. So the first thing that says we got to change the name. And so went out and hired a whole agency, and we came up with Zodiac, and I was really upset about it because I said, first of all, we have this name. It's CLV. That's what we do. So why should we mess with it? And also, Zodiac? Really? We're doing all this kind of sciencey stuff, and you want to name it after some friggin' astrology thing?
Yeah.
So I was not happy, but they were right, and it was again a very appealing name, very appealing positioning, and so there was just a whole lot about. It's one thing to develop good models, but to
Hmm.
make people want to be aware of them and want to use them and understand what they're going to do with them. Um, you know, put it this way, a lot of my colleagues have come to me since Zodiac and they've said, "Hey, I got some good research too. I want to commercialize it." I'm thinking, yeah, easier said than done.
Yeah.
I get more credit than I deserve. It really is, and this is not a humble brag thing.
Hmm.
It really is the people and the investors and the agencies and just the other partners we work with, and it all just came together in a really good way.
Yeah. No, that's great. And when I think about your role as a professor, that's obviously your element. But when you think about your role as an entrepreneur, did you have any mentors or any really good guidance that helped you through that?
Yeah, again, it was just a great founding team, and I didn't
Hmm.
really know my place. So I remember so well. We had an office up in New York, and I'd kind of go up there just, because, hey, I'm a co-founder, I'm
Yeah.
important here,
Yeah.
and I'd show up, and I kind of noticed that everyone was going, "Oh, not the old guy."
Yeah.
And so finally, our CEO, Artem Marichin, he kind of pulled me aside and he said, "Listen, Pete, we don't really need you every day. When we need you, we'll call you. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll let you know. But we have things under control here." So it was actually having just a very strong CEO who was not at all afraid to kind of look me in the eye and say, "Buzz off."
Yeah. Yeah.
And not to mention, I mean, forget about me, just knowing how to, run a business and the funding rounds and who to hire and all that go-to-market stuff. Been really blessed between him and then the newest firm, Encompass, with
Hmm.
our CEO there, Jessica DeVlieger, same thing. She runs a tight ship,
Hmm.
but now I've learned my lesson. And now I've said to her, "Call me when you need me. I'm not going to bug you
Yes.
otherwise." So
Yes.
I
Yeah,
come around.
I want to go to Encompass, but first talk to us about Nike coming in and parting ways with Zodiac. How was that? Was that an emotional process? This is something you'd only been maybe working on for 3 years, but really this is like your a lot of the work you've done poured into it. How was that process?
It ended up being a tough in
Yeah.
some ways. A part of it was Nike put a really tight non-compete on us. So for the
Okay.
next 3 years, we could not do any of this the typical CLV stuff that was my life. It kind of like whoa. Um, so there was that. Also, when Nike came in. They basically made us fire all of our existing customers. That
Really?
was really tough. There was one company, a big telco that we had just signed. The chief strategy officer was one of my former students, and we had just signed them. And we had to turn to them and say, "Oops, just kidding, never mind."
Wow.
Well, that was not an easy thing to do, and so just adjusting to the big changes and what Nike wanted out of us, out of the team was kind of different. They had a kind of a bigger, broader mandate of helping to build all of their data infrastructure. I'm saying, "No, we just want to run the models, let's run the models, let's run the models." And it's like,
Yeah.
no, no, one thing at a time. And then we're, slower and more corporate. And so it was an adjustment, but again, I still have my day job here as a professor,
Yes.
so it didn't really change what I'm doing day to day. It obviously had a lot of impact on the team that all
Hmm.
became Nike employees, and
Yes.
so I'd spent a lot of time commiserating with them because they enjoyed that fast-paced, startup life, and that was kind of slower corporate life. Again, not to knock Nike, it's just different. And then the other part about it was. As we were selling to Nike, all these private wealth types were coming up to me and saying, we'll manage your money. Go away. We can help you set up a QSBS. And I had no idea what they were talking about. I thought anything with BS in it is something you
Yeah.
probably don't want to deal with. But I'm sure and anyone listening to this would know about kind of qualified small business stock.
Hmm.
Well, it's an amazing thing that is. So we needed to found a new company within 60 days in order to protect our kind of QSBS. Wow. And that's one of the reasons why we started Theta. We had to
Mm.
get it off the ground very quickly for, kind of almost as a tax dodge.
Yeah.
But of course, part of it is we did want to keep going with the models. We just couldn't do the same things that we had been doing before that caused us to kind of pivot from kind of regular lifetime value, which email to send to this customer at this
Hmm.
time, and more to this idea of customer-based corporate valuation. So the one out that Nike gave us is we couldn't calculate lifetime value for any one customer, but we could use the same models for revenue forecasting at a more
Mm.
aggregate level. So we kind of made this big change, start spending more time working with private equity firms and family offices and sell side investment banks, just to do this idea of, like I said, customer based corporate valuation. Whole new world, a whole
Yeah.
new language and culture that I, as a marketing professor, didn't really know that much about. Once again, great education, very interesting conversations, some really nice outcomes from it. Still not jeopardizing the day job,
Yes. Yep.
but just learning new tricks and just new corners of the world
Yeah.
that I wouldn't have known about otherwise.
It's great. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about Encompass now because I think it's fascinating. I came from a larger corporate company and I think the product is incredible. So I want to hear the pitch and how you're doing. But then I also
Absolutely.
want to hear maybe this time around, did you do anything differently than Zodiac in terms of how you started it? And yeah, share about that.
Absolutely. Sure, sure. So there's a whole long backstory behind it. I won't bore you with the details, but in the same way that we like, as you said, we like to quantify the qualitative.
Yeah.
That's true on the customer side, but what about employees? And so every company does some kind of, 360 or performance assessment, and you know it. Anyone listening to this knows it. I fortunately have never experienced it since I'm just a professor. But that whole way, the way that we assess, the way that we get assessed, nobody likes it, nobody believes it, nobody trusts it, no one wants to take action on it. It's more of a
Yeah.
box checking exercise than anything else. So again, doing a little bit of fancy math, kind of came up with just a really good way to do that. The name of the company is Encompass, which stands for Incentive Compatible Peer Assessment System. So every time someone assesses someone else, we're getting two pieces of information. How good is the assessor? Are they really good at being able to sort people out from each other, as well as the assessee? So we end up getting more information with fewer inputs, and we can take action on it just much more readily. So that's what we're doing, is just kind of revolutionizing the whole 360 thing and all of the different use cases that arise from it. So once again, an area that I know nothing about as a marketing professor, but I love to learn. I love to come in and make a difference. And here's the big difference between a Zodiac and it's actually a lot of big differences. With the customer lifetime value stuff, a lot of companies don't know they need that. So a lot of it's kind of an educational mission. Like,
Mhm.
the reason why you're not growing faster is because you're not paying attention to lifetime value.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it is kind of telling people about something that just hasn't been part of their workflow before,
Mhm.
but could be better for them. And there's often kind of skepticism about it and really a lack of understanding of what to do with it. Whereas when it comes to employee assessment, not only does
Everyone knows it.
everyone do it and everyone knows it, but everyone hates the way they do
Hates,
it.
hates
So
it.
we can come up with a way to do it better.
Yeah.
It just it makes, I don't want to say that it's an automatic sales cycle, but a shorter sales cycle, a more enjoyable one, and again, we unlike the lifetime value thing where we are bringing the use cases to clients, saying here are 50 things you never thought about. With Encompass, it's the other way around. So once we give these really valid measures of how good each employee is, then they tell us, well, here's the 50 fun things that we've figured out how to do with it. It's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. So really learning from clients, not just
Yeah.
trying to, shove something down their throat. So it's a nice contrast
Yeah.
between the two businesses, and also just being just a bit mature. Uh, Myself, my co-founder Dan McCarthy,
Mhm.
our CEO Jessica DeVlieger, our other co-founder Oscar Nakahara, a few more gray hairs here than we had
Mhm.
in the Zodiac days. And so just, better expectations about how long things will take to work, better
Yeah,
expectations about sales, better understanding about what's the next kind of hire we should be making. So it's really less about what is it that the VCs are going to like? Are they going to like this? Are they going to like that? It's more about what's going to be better for the business.
it's great.
And we're not in nearly as big a rush to do the fundraising. Yeah, we will,
Mhm.
but we'll do it more on our terms. So it really is just a very nice contrast and a very nice education.
Yeah. Well, you say you don't know a lot about it, but I love the genesis of the business you shared about how you grade and how others grade. If you could share that, I find that
Oh,
fascinating.
okay. I'm so glad you scratched the surface there. Yeah, just like performance assessment is just a terrible, hated thing for employees, but it has to be done. Same thing with grading. So around 10 years ago, again, along with my former PhD, Dan McCarthy, we came up with a new way of grading. It's the same basic idea that you write your paper, and then you're given a batch of 5 other papers to evaluate. And if you really know your stuff, not only will you write a good paper and people will appreciate it, but you should be able to look at 5 other papers and know which is the best, know which is the worst. So part of your grade depends on how well you assess the other papers, as well as how well you're assessed. And it's been working just beautifully. Really, really nice. Been a bunch of different courses here at Wharton have been using this thing. Never thought for a second that there'd be any kind of commercial application of it, and certainly never thought that it would apply to employees.
Yeah.
And it was actually one of our CLV customers, a company called Hostel World, kind of the Expedia of youth hostels. And I was
Mhm.
meeting, and so they were a client of our CLV stuff. And I was meeting with their CEO, Gary Morrison. And he said, "We need this for our people." And I said, "Well, come on, what?" And he was right. And they were client number one. I think we've done it with them 6 or 7 times now. Worked with about
Wow.
30 other firms, including some, beloved tech firms, and some big giant, Fortune 200 firms as well. So there's just a lot of people who realize the need to evaluate people
Mhm.
properly and then to make, better decisions, more accountable decisions on it. Again, it all goes back to just a crazy idea about grading, but it's really taking off. And it's funny that we haven't even thought about the commercial, well, haven't pursued the commercial applications on the grading side. We want to
Yes.
figure out this HR thing first. But that's one of the reasons why we chose this deliberately agnostic name,
Hmm.
Incompass, that's going to give us the flexibility to go into grading and go into
Yes.
just a lot of other use cases where this kind of incentive compatible assessment system might be appropriate, if not
Hmm.
game changing.
I mean, you're in a world where, or I'm in a world, let's say there's 10 employees you have, you know the ones who are the high performers, the medium performers, and the low performers. But not everyone's going to give candid feedback. So finding a way to do that, it's
And you
really,
know
really
what? Let me
novel.
say, even for the high performers, sometimes they're good at a bunch of things, but they do have their weaknesses.
Yeah.
So when we're evaluating people on multiple dimensions, so every company has its 5 or 6 core values or
Hmm.
behaviors or competencies. So maybe you're the best at compatible at collaboration and customer focus and grit, but maybe other areas you might not be as good at. So to come up with a separate evaluation on each of those dimensions so that everybody can improve the good folks as well as the not so good ones, and to have this much more granular understanding of strengths and weaknesses, whether it's for an individual, whether
Hmm.
it's for a functional group within the organization, whether it's for one business unit or geographic area, just to try to level the playing field and help everybody improve.
I love that. So my last question for you, and we'll make sure we tag Encompass because I think it's fascinating for businesses we work with. What advice do you have for the young entrepreneur? I know you're with students all the time, but what advice do you give or would you give to a young entrepreneur?
Oh, I have so much advice. One is don't look to me for advice. And again, I'm being honest about that because people see, oh, you're a serial entrepreneur. Look at all these businesses you've had. Yeah, it's just it's people, it's circumstances, and the way that we get these businesses off the ground is quite unconventional. My co-founders have just incredible networks. It's just not the same for kind of a you know normal person getting something off the ground. That's one part of it. A second part would be, and this might sound ironic because I'm the customer lifetime value guy. Um, get the business off the ground. Get yourself running comfortably before you start leaning into some of my stuff. Before you worry about,
I,
like every company worries about its ICP, its ideal customer profile. The reality is you don't know who that is. You don't know what
yeah.
that is. Maybe after you've been running the business for like 4 years, you'll start to see certain types of customers or clients tend to be better than others. And it's like, oh yeah, it's obvious in hindsight. But you just have to be, again, more open-minded, more patient. You can't jump to conclusions and just think you know everything because you don't. And you don't want to you don't want to learn about it the hard way. You'd
Mm.
rather just be open-minded and let that wisdom kind of, come to you organically. It's been again. I don't want to say I had all of these insights and ideas right from the get-go, but because my life doesn't depend on it as much as it does for your
Yes.
entrepreneur. I can
Hmm.
be a little bit more patient.
Hmm.
I can take that chance to, let growth slow down a little bit if it lets me learn and
Yes.
benefit for the long run.
Yeah. Professor Fader, thank you for joining us.
Great to talk to you, Peter. Hope it's helpful and
Yeah.
worthwhile for everyone
Yeah.
listening.
I mean, I am so fascinated by Encompass. I'm so fascinated by the founding story there. I just think that not only the B of A's of the world where I was, but your smaller businesses should be doing this. Like you should be, if you're, gosh, people should be using this.